Good morning or good afternoon, everybody, depending on your time zone. My name is Mark Shinesk. I'm Senior Application Engineer with Seiler Design Solutions. And this short webinar, it shouldn't last more than, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 30, 40 minutes tops. This webinar is on what's new in Autodesk Civil 3D and Infraworks, the 2021 releases. For your information, this webinar is being recorded. You will get a link to the recording after it all, on the outgoing email that thanks you for coming, and I appreciate you taking the time to come out here. So I got a little my PowerPoint is 4 slides long. I'm not a PowerPoint guy, as those who've seen my webinars before. I'll just go through a brief summary or overview of what we're going to talk about, and then we'll just go right into the demonstration of what's new. Those of you who are using the Civil 3D 2018 or plus products, 2021 is completely compatible with previous versions. It does use the AutoCAD 2018 drawing format with Civil 3D 2020 compatible objects. 2018, 19, 20 and 21 are cross-compatible with each other to a point, and I'll highlight where those points are as we go through. Let's just talk about a quick overview of what's new, and we'll go right into it, because Infraworks and Civil 3D, the new products, they are the new features are this interlacing their interoperability with bridge and structure design. So Autodesk is over 2019 and 2020, they made great strides in introducing the rail tools. Now they're focusing on bridge and structure design as well, which reminds me, I gotta get my, I know we're not going to talk about Revit, but I did want to talk about this when it comes to Infraworks. So bridge design interoperability with Infraworks, the Civil 3D 2021 product. There's been changes finally to the pressure network layout. Some new tools to help with the layout. If you're a user of the pressure network parts, they're getting better and better with each release. There's still some kind of interoperability with the Arcgis desktop online that hasn't come through yet. You still can't load your pressure networks up to ArcGIS Online, but hopefully that's coming down the line as well. They split Dynamo. Dynamo is now automatically installed in the Install Civil 3D 2021, and they've added a new player window. So you can skip going through the entire separate dialogue for the programming to load and play, and then there's just a player window that pops up that you can just load your scripts and run them. And then we'll talk about object data names as attributes when exporting to ArcGIS, either File Geodatabase or ArcGIS Online. With Infraworks 2021, again, the bridge design interoperability, that is the greatest core strength of the new version, with export with both Civil 3D and Revit. Corridor modeling from Civil 3D directly into Infraworks. That's goes hand in hand with the bridge design. I'll show you in my demo. High display, high screen resolution for 4K and 8K displays is now on by default. They've added U.S. survey feet as a measurement of road for stationing. So for small, short roads, of course, it really didn't matter, but now with once you get along, a mile, 2 miles worth of road, big differences start to pop up between U.S. feet and international feet. So they've added U.S. survey feet as a unit for road design stationing. And there's been some minor UI improvements here and there as well. So without further ado, let's skip the PowerPoints. Let's go right into the demo. I'm gonna show you some of the changes in Infraworks right off the bat. If you haven't played with Infraworks since the 2019-2020 releases, they've revamped the entire user interfaces. They've made the icons a little more user-friendly for larger displays. So regardless of what kind of displays, they're still sharp and crisp and clear. But they've revamped. This is more like a ribbon that you would normally see as part of like a Civil 3D. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a little, show you both Civil 3D changes and Infraworks changes by doing this exchange between the two units with or objects or programs with a quick bridge and road design. So I just have a little site here I picked out that's near my house. This is a totally fictional tool. I'm going to run a new corridor up and cross the river here and tie into this existing road up here to the northeast side. So if I switch over to Civil 3D here, I've already kind of gone through and made an original initial corridor design. I pulled this information into Civil 3D from Infraworks. If you're aware of it, you know, create your model builder, bring your data into Civil 3D. I've got just a simple 2-lane road with 4-foot shoulders and a cut fill slope to the existing surface crossing the river here. Did my initial runs plus an intersection that ties into that existing road to the northeast. So this is just a standard corridor model. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this corridor back into Infraworks. So, you know, if you save your drawing here, I'll come back to Infraworks. I have a new proposal that I've made specifically for this. And I'm just going to come here and in my data sources, I'm going to load up a Civil 3D drawing. I'm going to load this drawing in. It's going to connect to that data source. And in the past, we were able to bring in Civil 3D objects in Infraworks as either a composite road or as a corridor surface with terrain overlay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, I'm just going to bring in that road model. It's the only one I want. So I'm going to uncheck the other objects, the corridor coverages. I'm not going to bring in the corridor coverages for this particular model. So it's going to go ahead and read those. Now I'm going to configure my corridor. And what's new in Infraworks this time is we have a new tab here for how those component road options come in. I can bring them in as a complete corridor or as the component road. And so I'm going to uncheck the items that I don't want. All I'm really concerned with at this time is my new river crossing road, and I'm going to bring it in as a component road along with that intersecting road up here. I'll close and refresh those, and you can see how they've come in. So this is just a standard Civil 3D composite corridor road. You know, I can sit here and modify the widths and my shoulders. Oops, my shoulders should be 4 foot wide. So I'm going to change those down to 4 foot wide. My lanes are going to be 12 foot wide. These are what's matching the corridor. And the reason I'm doing it this way instead of bringing the corridor first is once I bring the corridor model in, I can't modify it in here like I can in Civil 3D. But I can always modify a composite road in Infraworks. And as long as I set my sections up here so it matches what I'm showing back here in Civil 3D, that's fine. These are also 2-to-1. I've made this particular road 2-to-1 on the fills. And I'll change this slope here too. So now my corridor model in Infraworks matches what's in Civil 3D. Okay, so now that I have in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bridge. So if you're familiar with the bridge components here, create structures, I'm just going to add a bridge we'll go from about there to there. And we'll show you the bridge. If you're not familiar with the bridge design tools, this is one of the biggest things that they've started adding to into Infraworks and Civil 3D are the bridge tools. Just a quick bridge design here. I'm going to change my starting station to 1530, and you can see you can select the beginning, the ends. 1790 is going to be my closing station. I got a single pier in here. Of course, I can right-click on this bridge now, and I can send this to a spreadsheet. If you haven't been able to play with this before, this is kind of cool. I'm going to overwrite the one I've got here. So I can take this bridge information, I can write it out in spreadsheet form, and here you have a really neat way of modifying your bridge. I can add descriptions, add tooltips, tag data, user data. I can play with the deck widths, heights. It's reading this from the model right now. Here I want that pier, if I want to stretch this pier out to be, that first pier to be at 120 feet, I can come here and say, hey, put that at 120 feet and put it at a 20-degree skew. I can change any of the parameters that are in blue in here. Once I save this, I can then come back, right-click, go to my spreadsheet, and update the bridge. So now the bridge is going to go through, or import's going to go through, read that spreadsheet, and make any changes to this design that I want to at this point. Of course, you can do any of the structure analysis here. You could do the line girder analysis and things like that. I've talked about this in the previous webinar. If you'd like, you can check our blog there, available for watching the recorded webinars from previous sections before. So once I've gotten this bridge here, now this is where some of the new features come in. So I can make my bridge changes here. Now I can right-click on this bridge and select it, and now I can publish civil structures. So this is a new way. It creates a specific IMX file specific to this bridge that I can import into Civil 3D. It's going to bring in the bridge structure into Civil 3D at this time. I can also make a backup of my proposal if I want to. I'm going to save this to my desktop for right now. I'll overwrite the one I had there and say create. So this is going to create an IMX of just the bridge structure area and that portion of the corridor. Just take 2 seconds. And once it's complete, we'll come back here to Civil 3D. Now, as part of Civil 3D, one of the new things they brought in here now is, if you notice, they have a new tab for bridges, or a new section of bridges in the prospector. So there are new styles that go for the different sections of the bridges as well. If I come to the settings tab, come down here to the bridge settings, you can see I can have bridge projection styles and label styles for the different aspects or different components of that bridge. To show you roughly here, we're going to go ahead and go to Insert. I'm going to open up that IMX model instead of opening up the SQLite. This is that IMX I just made here. We'll select that, open it, and I'm going to open that model. Okay. And you can see now that bridge structure has now dropped into Civil 3D as a bridge section model. I can go ahead, I can delete the components that I don't need anymore. I brought in the existing ground for that section. We're just going to go ahead and get rid of those pieces that I don't need. So now back here in my profile, this is my profile. I select my profile and go to Project Objects to Profile View. I can now draw a window and select those bridge components. And you can see I got new projections. So I have all these new bridge items that are part of those projection styles. I got a projection style that is by layer. So that bridge section that I created in Infraworks, dropped in my corridor, is now been projected to my profile with those label styles. And of course, I can move the labels as I need to. It gives me the information for that bridge. This goes back and forth. So as I make changes to the structure in Civil 3D or Infraworks, I can rewrite that back out to, or Revit, I can rewrite that back out to Infraworks, drop that back into Civil 3D, and I can cycle these between among the programs. Again, in Revit too, I've already got one here. I'll just open it really quick. This is that IMX file as opened up in Revit too. I'm not going to cover the new versions of what's going on in Revit, but there's that bridge structure directly out of Infraworks into Revit from there reading that IMX file as well. There's an add-in here for, I think it's an import civil structures. So that reads that IMX file and dropped in there, okay? That's as much as I'll cover on the Revit end of it. So now here back in Civil 3D, I can go ahead and modify my corridor now that I've got that structure in there. I'll go ahead and split this region, and I'm going to use one of the new transparent commands by station offset. I'll select my alignment, and 1530 was where my bridge abutment started. So I'll split my corridor there, and I'll split this region at 1790. do it again here. Split, station offset, 1790, 0. There we go. So now I've split my corridor into 3 regions. I have another subassembly I've put together here called deck. I made just a quick bridge deck using a standard generic pavement structure and a generic, I just brought up a barrier subassembly. So I'm going to go ahead and select my corridor model now, modify that region properties for this region that I just split out, and I'm going to replace that main road with that deck. Go ahead and run that, rerun my corridor. We'll delete that. That one came in with that IMX. So now I got a corridor model that matches my bridge structure for the decking. If I come here to the object viewer, so just by bringing in that structure, let me figure out where I wanted to make those changes to my corridor. So if I wanted to run this in my sections, I would have a corridor model that matched what I was getting from that bridge structure. Okay. Go ahead and close that object viewer. Now, if I save this drawing back, I'm going to go back to Infraworks, and this is the interoperability back here. Instead of this, remember, I brought this corridor in as a component road. I'm going to modify that. Instead of component road, I'm going to bring those in as the corridor model. So this is the direct corridor model I can bring into Infraworks. Now, in order to do that, because of my intersection here, I'm also going to have to turn on those connected alignments when I made my intersection. I'll go ahead and close and refresh that, and that will change that from a component road to the actual corridor model from the Civil 3D drawing. Okay. Now you can see the difference now. This is the corridor model as it is instead. Now the only thing I have to do, because I made those changes to this section here, is re-import. So by re-importing now, it goes back and reads that DWG file that I just saved, and then you'll see that bridge decking go across here as well. Instead of using the old standards of matching the materials, it's using the materials that are directly in the corridor model itself. You can see here that those custom barrier that I built here, it doesn't have a material for it. So I can again come back to that data source configuration, come down here to the component mappings, and here I just basically I have a shape code that doesn't have a material applied to it, so it just uses generic green. I'll go ahead and change that to a concrete. We'll just use a generic concrete here, save, close and refresh it, and now those barriers will have a concrete a material applied to it. There you go. So I can use this in my presentation. I can go to conceptual view. You can see my bridge now matches my corridor completely back and forth. So I can use this whole cycle of the interoperability between Infraworks and Civil 3D to go round tripping with my bridge structures along with the Revit models. So that's probably the major changes with Civil 3D. The ability to have the direct corridor model back and forth and the bridge structure interoperability. Okay, let's talk about the next thing. That's pretty much it with Infraworks. In Civil 3D, we have a couple more items here. So I'm going to switch drawings here. I got a drawing that I use when I typically teach my classes on pipe networks. There's basically new layout tools for pressure network parts in Civil 3D. If you haven't used pressure network parts or catalog before, the whole network process was for water mains and gas mains and any kind of non-gravity dependent pipe work that's independent of any of those types of factors. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you the old way we used to do this is if you've looked at previous versions, I could run a pipe between points, and then it would pull from a list of fittings, of the different angles, and it would put the best fitting in there. It only let you go from if I had 11 and a half and 22 and a quarter, or sorry, 11 and a quarter, 22 and a half, 45-degree fittings, I could only go in those directions. And even though there's deflection allowed in the fittings, it wouldn't take those into consideration when I was running my network. Well, now let me go ahead and just skip to the chase here. I'm going to make a new pressure network. And also we have something here called pipe runs. So not only in the network, so I'll just call this webinar network. And we'll make a pipe run. This will be pipe run number 1 of this network. So I can break my network up into separate pipe runs. We're going to use a water supply list. We're going to run, I'll run 8-inch ductile iron. My reference surface is going to be my finished grade of my road. I'm not going to worry about alignments right here. This is more for labeling and things like that. I'm not going to throw labels on there at this time. I'll hit OK. And now my new layout is similar to what I've seen before. We're running pressure networks. But now I've got this new pipe run items of making new pipe runs. Okay. And instead of, I'm just going to start here at point A. Instead of going up to point B and then given a limited compass of ranges, I go, before I could only go 90, 11 and a quarter, 22 and a half, 45, or straight ahead. Now I just draw like I'm drawing a polyline. And what's going to happen is Civil 3D is going to pick the best fitting with deflection that fits that polyline that I just put in. It's also going to create an alignment along that pipe network. So you can see it's choosing the fitting without having to do any extra work. And where needed to, it's applying a deflection for the allowable deflection for those particular pipe ranges. And at any time, I can go ahead and select the fitting, change the angle of that pipe, and it will automatically go through and pick a new fitting for that. Before, if I change the angle of that pipe, the previous fitting stayed there. I used to have to delete it. I used to have to go select another fitting to put in that place. Now it automatically changes however I decide to run this. At the same time that it's doing this, it's also placing an alignment on that pipe. So not only am I running my alignment, my pipe at the same time, I'm running an alignment along with it. So at any time I can come here and say, hey, give me a pipe run profile, either cut length or offset at fittings, offset to the surface, rerun it, and I can make a new profile view of just that particular run. Use my profile view, create a new view. Let's get a spot here that's clean. There we go. So there's my new profile run with that profile view. I do hate this style because there we go. There we go. So there's my profile view, and you can see I'm getting that offset profile that goes along with it. So it's creating my profile of my pipes with the profile view, and now everything's linked together in one shot. I can come back to my network. I can change my pipes, expand, run my network further up the line. It is automatically, like I said, going to choose a new fitting for this bend, and it's going to update my profile at the same time. Okay, so that's the major changes with the pipe networks. It really makes using pressure network parts a lot better, a lot easier, and I think in the end we're going to see more use out of this. Okay, the final new thing I want to talk about in Civil 3D are basically with the Arcgis Online or the exporting to file geodatabase. In the past, you were able to, for those who aren't familiar, Civil 3D and Autodesk is working collaboration with Esri for the Autodesk connector for ArcGIS. I have talked about this in previous webinars as well. The downside, one of the downsides to it, and it's getting better and better every day, or every release or every update. A lot of times we have to deal with working with GIS systems that already have a predefined feature class list and the predefined attributes. And One of the downsides of the previous versions of it is exporting and creating a file geodatabase from Civil 3D products or parts were the attributes were stuck in stone. You know, you look at a pipe network item and you look at the list of properties here, and you know, start invert elevation, end elevation, 2D length, 3D length, start structure, end structure. These were the headings for those attributes that used to go out, and they were pretty much set in stone. And then somebody else, a GIS operator on the other end, is going to have to go through there, do some kind of a batch conversion of those feature class attributes from one label to another or merge those in. Well, I think that to make life easier, Autodesk has now let you define those attribute names as you export it. So if let's say, for example, I want to export this parcel out to Arcgis Online, I'll go ahead here and go to my output. I'll go ahead and publish to ArcGIS. I have everything else in here already done, so I'm going to connect to my Arcgis Online. I'm only going to do my sites. I'm going to do this parcel, this property 1 here. I'm going to say OK. It's going to run through the routine to publish. There's my area of interest. Let's pick that up. I do have my coordinate system set, and I am in the right location for real world coordinates. My layer definition, I'm going to make a new parcel layer, and here's the new tab. So here's the feature class attribute names. If I wanted this to be a site name or something, I could say site underscore name, and that becomes the attribute header. Parcel underscore number. Maybe I can say parcel underscore area. ID. Description, maybe DESC. So I'll just change those with different parameters so you can see what's going on here. Say next. You know, I got to give it a name, MES underscore par del 1. Okay, let's be unique. I'll put some tags on there. Next, and I have an area on my Arcgis Online. I have some content folders specifically for my use here. So I'm going to go ahead and publish those up. By the way, you don't have to use the web cloud when you're publishing the Arcgis Online. You can also use whatever web server that you host. If you're hosting your own, you can use that instead of the Arcgis Online cloud. But I think it's a fantastic tool. By the way, this also works not only can you publish to ArcGIS, but you can now publish directly to File Geodatabase as well. I'm going to go ahead and view this online. So it's going to open up my, got to log in with my goodies here. There we go. It's going to go to my area. So there's my parcel as published in ArcGIS Online. Now if I select that, you can see, I'll go ahead and open up the table. You can see the descriptions or the feature class, the attribute headers that I changed in Civil 3D are now what appear in the actual file GDB of the site. So that's a new feature they're adding. Hopefully soon they'll be able to allow you to add additional attributes. Right now, custom attributes or custom user-defined properties that you add do not come across in this, but I believe that is coming further down the line. Okay. Right now, that is the new features for Civil 3D 2021. There are a couple other little items here and there, mostly pertaining to AutoCAD, just little tweaks here and there, some minor user interface. You can always go to Autodesk in your help file. Hit OK here. If you go to your help file, of course, there's always the what's new release notes, and you can come here and it'll take you to the what's new in 2021 release notes, new features, or you can also check out some videos online by Autodesk as well. Does anybody have any questions that they like to ask at this time? Go ahead and type in your chat box. Any hands raised? No hands raised. Okay. I don't see any open questions at this time. Okay, well, that's all I have. So it was a nice short. You guys still have time to go eat lunch and get out and enjoy some sunshine, or thunderstorms in my case. I thank you very much for coming. If you have any further questions that you would like to ask beyond this, please contact us at cadtechnical@seilerinst.com. And I urge you to please subscribe, view our blog. You can find our blog at https://www.seilerds-ds.com/blog. You can subscribe. We publish news, tips, and tricks on Autodesk infrastructure and architectural products, as well as GeoSLAM, Pix4D, Seiler drone work. Any kind of news and information usually makes it to our blog. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming out, and again, you will get a link with a recording for this webinar. You can share it with anybody as you need to. I encourage you to do so, and thank you very much, and I hope you all have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you, everyone.